Hi, everyone. I'm Katie with OceanCity.com, and we are here with Grammy Award winner, singer-songwriter Lisa Loeb. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, is this going to be your first time in Ocean City?
I don't know. I should look it up. I'm terrible. I've been playing for so long, and my memory has gotten so bad that people show me pictures of myself in places all over the world that I didn't realize I had been. But I feel like I've heard so much about it. I feel like I've been there before.
Well, we
I'm
were just
looking myself
talking.
up.
We were just talking before, like off camera, and you have a really cool connection to Maryland in general that I had no idea. Do you want to explain?
Yes, I actually was born in Bethesda, Maryland. My parents, I was raised mostly in Texas because my mom is from Dallas and my dad's from West Texas. But in my dad's medical training, he was traveling around and we lived in Maryland for a little bit when I was born. So I'm actually from Maryland.
So you
It's like,
probably don't even remember being in Ocean City, but you've had to have visited Ocean City at least once in the time you were here, I'm
I'm
sure.
sure I must have. And I've got a couple of really good friends and some that I work with who are always inviting me to come to Maryland, more like by the water, you know.
Right. We've got a lot of water here in Maryland and it's really beautiful and we're so excited to have you here in Ocean City. Let's talk music because that's why you're coming. Can you imagine or believe that it's been 30 years since was it Stay, right? 30 years of Stay?
Yes, it's been 30 years since my song Stay went to number one. I wrote it even a couple more years before that. But I've just been playing music since the 80s, and my music has been on the radio since the 90s. And I really, on one hand, I can't believe it because it just sounds like so much time has passed. On the other hand, it still feels so current to me. And from the audiences, it feels pretty current. You know, it's a lot of nostalgia as well, of course, which I really appreciate because I have so much nostalgia for the different music that I listened to growing up. So I love that connection, but I also love the kind of current feeling connection as well.
So what kind of music did you like growing up? Like that really inspired you to become a singer-songwriter?
Wow, there was so much music I listened to. There were a lot of really old-timey songs. In fact, I made a record recently called That's What It's All About, where I recorded a bunch of these old-timey songs that I listened to when I was very little. Like Mare's Oats is an old-timey song, or Don't Fence Me In, The Hokey Pokey. You know, just a lot of old-time songs my dad would play on the piano or we'd hear on the radio or record players. And then from there, I listened to a lot of classical. My older brother's a classical pianist, so there was a lot of classical music in the house, and we learned a lot of classical music and musicals, classic musicals, and then I listened to a lot of soft pop in the 70s, you know, like Bread and Olivia Newton-John. But then I also listened to a lot of rock, like a lot of Queen and Elton John and David Bowie, The Police, and then New Wave, and it went on from there. But a lot of rock and a lot of rock, really.
So I know like you talked about like your family being musical. Is that something that like you said they were always around music? When your brother becomes a pianist, you go to the guitar. Was there ever any interest in the guitar or in the piano on your side? Do you do both?
Well, I grew up learning piano. That's what we all took piano lessons growing up. We'd take two lessons a week, one for performance and one for theory in a group. And along the way, I think I realized I was really connecting to rock music and especially with my brother being such a great pianist. I mean, he was winning all these competitions and I enjoyed it, but I just didn't find myself practicing a lot. And then when was exposed to playing guitar and I realized I could play all this music that I listened to, that I go to bed listening to. I listened to records. I was like obsessed with records and music. And also summer camp. At summer camp, a friend of mine had a guitar, and I learned early on that it was such a fun social instrument, something you could carry around. You could make up new lyrics to popular songs. You could write new songs. You could perform. You could hang out with it. And that just felt right to me. And so it was a big deal when I told my dad I had to sit him down and tell him I was going to switch instruments from piano to guitar. And, you know, I was so nervous about that, but it just suited what I wanted to do, and it worked really well for songwriting. I still play a little bit of piano, but it's mostly if I need it for songwriting.
So I know you had just celebrated, was it 50 years with Taylor Guitars over in California
Yes.
where you are? When
Yeah,
it
I
comes
play a Taylor
to
guitar.
when it comes to picking a guitar, I am
Mm.
not musically inclined in any way. When it comes to picking a guitar, like what are you looking for as a musician? Are there different feels to different guitars, and why did you specifically pick Taylor?
I picked this particular brand because I had had a few different guitars growing up. And then while I was in college, I had a group called Liz and Lisa. It was a popular band on campus, and we were recording our own records. And then we got to go to New York City. We set up a demo tape recording with a producer who was a guitar player with Suzanne Vega, and he brought in Suzanne Vega's bass player, who was amazing. This guy Mike Viseglia, who I'm still friends with, and John, the producer, had this amazing Taylor guitar, and it was so easy to play. It stayed in tune, which is a really big deal when you're a musician. It's funny, later in life, I ended up renting all these vintage guitars for some of my recording projects, and we literally were tuning every other second. It was just such a drag. And you really can achieve what you're looking for often, like with the guitar I have, just depending on where you put the mic and what kind of mic you use and how you play the guitar. So anyway, I had experience with this guitar, and it was kind of a big splurge at the time. I ended up having a guitar stolen. A guitar got stolen, and I took the insurance money, and I got the same guitar that John had played, which was a custom version of a Taylor 512C. And I like it because it this might not make any sense, but it's easy to play. The action is really good. It stays in tune really well. It speaks really well. All the sounds are really defined, which is good for the way I play, because I strum, but I also pick a lot and play little guitar licks during my songs, and also the size of it. I'm a petite person. And so some of the guitars that I associate with sounding bigger or more bassy, and I kind of would like that sound, they're just too big for me. It's like wearing a pair of pants that's huge, you know? I
Right,
need something that's more my size.
right, right. You talked about your different styles of strumming and picking. Kind of goes
Mhm.
like into my next question, where um your new album with the hollow trees is
Yes,
very, very I actually wrote down retro because I feel like
it
it's very,
is.
so is that like a good word to like describe it?
Yeah, it's really like really authentically vintage. That's why I played. I didn't play actually a lot of guitar on that record, or if anything at all. Mostly I sang and tap danced. But other than that, and maybe some hand claps or something. But I found this band in Los Angeles about 10 years ago. I happened upon them, called the Hollow Trees. And they're so great. They're great people, but they also play just really authentic old time music. They've got all these different instruments, upright bass and ukulele and mandolin and accordion and banjo. And they're just great people. And I was looking for a band just like that. It was a miracle, because I do have a lot of different people I play with my own band, including the band I'll be with in Maryland, which is my original band right out of college. But with this record, I really wanted people who are used to playing these songs, who really knew how to accompany vocals and tell these stories. So I worked with the Hollow Trees on on that recording.
I have the Judalin song. It is so catchy, and the music video to go along with it is just as great. What
Yes.
How do you guys come up with ideas when it comes to like the music videos?
Well, it's funny because I'm usually really involved in all the music videos, but because I have so much on my plate, I generally go outside of myself to hire somebody to help direct it and edit everything. Although I always inevitably end up for hours and hours sitting right next to them editing videos and getting everything in line and figuring out the colors and the shots and everything else. But on this video, on a Doodlin' song, I asked Tracy, who's in the band The Hollow Trees, to direct it, because she had recently made a number of videos for her own band, and she's just really got a great sense of humor and detail oriented, and it was just really fun to work with her. She brought on a great DP, and together, especially through the editing and post-production process, it all came together in a clever and, again, very vintage retro kind of way. And I had originally heard a Doodlin' song. That was an old song, but I hadn't actually heard it till till high school. My cousin Ben played me the Peggy Lee version, which is a little haunted, as always, but it's always been kind of a funny, quirky song that I wanted to record.
And that's the one you had to learn how to tap dance for. Is that
I knew how to tap dance. I took tap in like eighth grade, and then around COVID time, maybe right before COVID, I ended up going back to tap class. I had been taking dance class, and I saw these tap dancers coming in before my class, and I was like, who are these people? What are they tapping? And so I joined their class, but then COVID hit. So I ended up hiring the teacher to come to my house at least once a week, and we would do tap classes outside during COVID. And I
That's
kind of
so
got
funny.
reconnected with my tap dancing of my childhood.
Well, it bode well for you in your music video. You did a great job.
Thank you very much.
So,
It's not, yeah, yeah. We did. We're just not lip syncing, but
oh, it's
pretending to do the tap there. But I did it actually in the studio.
several times. It was just it was incredible. I could only wish to tap dance half as good as that on there.
Uh,
So I know that you're coming to the East Coast. You're performing up in New England just before you're coming down to Ocean City. Um, so will you be here Friday, Saturday, or just on Sunday
I
in Ocean?
won't. I won't. And my daughter saw the lineup and she's like, Mom, can I come? I'm like, you've got school on Monday and Friday, so you can't fly all the way to the East Coast. But there's so many bands that I love: Sublime and Blink 182 and 311 and Larkin Poe. I mean, this is one of the best lineups I've seen. Cage the Elephant, The Killers, The Hives,
Like taking me right back to middle
The
school.
Samples. Oh my gosh. The Offspring, Dave Matthews, and Boyz II Men. I mean, it's such a big mix of music too. It's funny, a lot of these bands like Blues Traveler, Guster. I'm working on a project with Ryan from Guster, but a lot of these bands we played sort of the same places coming up in New York City. But I love seeing this mix of new and old music. It makes sense.
There's definitely a little bit for everybody. And like you said, like you don't have to just stick with one genre of music. Like you're like
No.
all over the place. And that's the best place or best thing about music is you can do that. You can go wherever you want as far as music.
Yeah. And I've been to the big music festival we go to a lot, or not a lot. We're going for the second time this year, is Austin City Limits. And I've been to Outside Lands and some other stuff. But it is nice to have that variety when you're at a festival. So you don't feel like you're being bombarded by the same feeling over and over again.
And
So
what's for you after Ocean City? What do you get to go off and do after?
I get to come back to Los Angeles and go from there. I've been playing a lot of shows lately. I've got two children, a 12-year-old who's in sixth grade and a ninth grader. So there's a lot of juggling that goes on
Lots
between
of stuff.
family schedules and me trying to go tour. It's funny. I said to my son, let's start looking at next summer because it's important to book ahead, and sometimes it's hard to book ahead, when you've got kids and you don't know what they need or what their schedules are going to look like. So I told him we need to get this together. And he had just been on tour with me during the summer, and he said, but you just went on tour this summer. I'm like, yeah, you go every summer.
Yeah,
You can go
yeah.
every summer. There's so many places to play, and I'm so lucky that I'm able to play all over the world basically at any moment. So I'm always sort of juggling that plus a bunch of other projects, including my daily radio show on Sirius XM 90s on 9 and my interview segment where I interview bands myself. I interview bands on a segment called Where They Are Now, and I have a lot of bands coming up and artists to interview for that, as well as a number of other creative projects in the works.
And if people want to follow you, what are your social handles so that they can keep up with you?
I'm at Lisa Loeb on Instagram. I am. It's a little confusing because it depends on the format. For Facebook, for old timers, you can go to. It's funny, I don't think of it as old timers, but Lisa Loeb Official on Facebook and Official Lisa Loeb YouTube, which people should definitely go check out my videos.
Definitely.
Otherwise, I'm Lisa Loeb everywhere else, just at Lisa Loeb.
Well, we are extremely happy to have you in Ocean City on Sunday. We're going to see Lisa Sunday at 2:45 on the Carousel stage. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and joining us for OceanCity.com.
Thank you so much. I really look forward to it.
Right. Thanks, everybody. If you want to follow Lisa, go YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And if you're lucky enough to be able to see her this Sunday, 2:45 at the Carousel stage, we will see you then.